Hi everyone, I'm Alisa Sikelianos-Carter, and I'm a painter, mixed media painter from upstate New York. And this is my talk and my show. I'm going to sit, because I like to sit down. And I'm just starting with this image that is actually the image I used of what I refer to as like the moon series or bioluminescent series. This is the image of hair that I use. So when we go over there, you'll see just the way this is repeated and the way I've used it in the work. And I'm showing this because my work started with thinking about hair as this symbol of empowerment for Black people, and thinking about my relationship to hair and the way it's grown for me throughout my lifetime. And so initially when I started the work, I wanted to create these beings, these sort of deities or almost like godlike monsters that were protectors, and they were kind of consumed by their hairstyles. And I did that because I was thinking about instances in workplaces and schools and sports teams where Black people are made to change their hairstyles to conform to like a white supremacist ideal of professionalism or beauty or what's normal. And so I started to imagine these beings that kind of responded, had this biological response to that in those moments, and their hair started to take over and become this protective mechanism that would filter the that sort of violence in that moment. So that's where it started. And I thought about drawing those images, and then I said, actually, there's so many images online that I can take from, and it's like very exciting. I love looking for hair images on the internet or in magazines, because it's just like I'm not even thinking about, I'm just looking at pattern and texture and scale, and it becomes like almost like mark making, like I'm thinking about it as like an art tool versus what I'm actually looking at, which is hair. So again, this is the image that we'll see next door, but I just wanted to show it to you. When I first started out many years ago, I was making hand-cut collages, and this is an example. So I would create like one half of a face and cut different images together, and thinking about creating these protectors or these deities. And I would scan them into Photoshop, and then I would mirror them to create these crowns. So this is where the work started, and they're about 24 by 16 inches or a little bit, a little more or less. And you can see that they're like a bit more, they're symmetrical, and in my dreams and fantasy and mythology, these are like mimicking more of like a human face. And imagining this process again, this divine technology or sacred adaptation is what I call it, like activating in order to protect the wearer or the person whose hair it is. And then I would glitter them the same way I do to the pieces next door, and just accentuate different parts of the pattern of the hair or the scalp. And in a lot of ways, I clearly love glitter, but I think about glitter as kind of like magic. Like it feels like I'm like wielding magic. It's just like very exciting. I mean, it's also super annoying and gets everywhere. But it's when I'm in like the right space, it's just like, it's light. It's just like manipulating light, and I'm obsessed with all kinds of light. So that's like really, it's very exciting to me. It's very pleasurable and enjoyable, and I just like love that I get to play with and work in light. So these are some of the older crowns, probably like 2018, 2017. And when I'm making them, I'm not thinking about, people are like, it's a bunny, it's, whatever. There's all kinds of things you can imagine, but I'm not thinking that. I'm like very much thinking about this process, this transformation, and really a response to like different things I would hear in the news, and wanting to create these deities, again, these protectors that would make me feel safe or soothe my rage or deep sadness for like what was happening or what is happening all the time in the world. And yeah, so, and I'm thinking about color as far as the hair. I don't change the color of the hair. I kind of, I adjust the levels, and often, when one piece is next to another, it will look more purple or it'll look more green or blue. So I play with that. Obviously there's like some orange, and then I use the glitter to, again, highlight that or accentuate the colors I see in the hair. And it's good. I mean, you can also go on my website and see these a little bit clearer. It's hard, at this scale, but and the light. But I'm thinking about texture, pattern, scale, and I mean, just like, where's my little? Is it the middle button? What's the? Oh, thank you. So like this kind of pattern is like so exciting to me when that. Getting to play with that and the negative space, and I do that a lot. And in this image you can't see, but there's like this kind of, sort of light copper amber glitter that's in here. Yeah, so I'm just thinking about those very much like in a kind of formal sort of perspective. Like when I'm going into it, I'm really looking at like the sort of principles of art, like volume and color and all of those things, pattern and scale. And their titles, I didn't include them, but what is this? Moonwalker. I think this one is called Earth to Earth. This is called Bad Black Amethyst Dragon, I think. And I'm really interested in science fiction. I'm interested in witch stuff. I'm interested in magic, space, nature. So the titles kind of reference that as well. And then Moonwalker. So this piece is, that's the Crown series. And then I decided I'd create these little weird categories in my mind, but scaling up pushed me to name these Afrocosmos. So like Afrocosmos, but Africosmos. And this is also a large, a cut collage. Like these are quite big. It's about, I mean, it's really probably 3.5 feet by 3 or a little bit more, 4 feet. But this was like the last of the cut collages, but it was my first time trying out this larger scale collage. And I think this is called Afrocosmos #1, I Am a Planet. Because there's like a series, so I made like #2, #3, and glitter them differently. So they're like unique prints, so they're like the same sort of format, and then I go in and glitter them differently, so they become unique. This is another example. This is much smaller. This is like 33 by 20 and this is later. Like those crowns are a bit earlier in my work, but this is a little bit more recent. But scaling down with the, it's still Afrocosmos. I don't know why I've decided that's because it has legs, but it's still Afrocosmos. And just playing with scale again and thinking about how to make these a bit smaller and including the figure, because the crowns were specifically for figures. So I was excited to kind of try that in a smaller space or smaller work. Yeah, I will. Yeah, just to keep telling me. I talk into my body. Okay, so this is one of my earlier paintings. It's 10 feet by 7 feet on paper. This is called Return to Earth. And I did this in grad school. I'm in grad school again, but I got an MA several years ago. And this is like how these are crowns, and you saw this one a little, like earlier. But this is how I would use the crowns. I would collage them into paintings and create these future ancestors. And so again, the idea is the future ancestors are sort of contemporary Black people who go through this process and have their hair, right now my hair just started swirling and taking over and became this new sort of head piece attached to my body. That's what they've done. And then they've left Earth to because it's so uninhabitable. It's so awful, as far as the sort of political climate. And they live somewhere else, but they've survived, and now they're, they've figured out a way to survive. And I'm obsessed with glitter. I love, like, this is all silver foil, interference gold foil, micaceous iron oxide, mica. So there's a lot of luminescent material. Sorry, this is another piece. What is this called? I don't remember what it's called, but you can see it on my website. It's okay. And, sorry. And again, and initially when I was making these like earlier paintings, I wasn't thinking about the mythology quite as much. I was thinking about just wanting to create these figures and just like what they could do. Like I was just like, oh, what do they look like? Like, yeah, just not really considering the sort of narrative that was there, how rich the story was. Like I was just playing with material and composition, and so that's where this all like was born out of. This is the first sort of time we meet these Afronauts, which are another character or being within this mythology. So we have like the future ancestors and the Afronauts, and later on, I decided the Afronauts were kind of the original people to go through this process of transformation, and their hair being their like the reason they are able to survive. This is 10 foot by 10 foot Afronauts and Ancestors is this title. And then Listen and Behold, a storytelling. And so this is, again, we have the Afronauts here, and we have the future ancestors. And this is where I started to think about narrative more. And this image is, this painting is sort of telling us, like I'm imagining this is like this central deity who's telling all of us in the future why we had to go through this process, like what happened and what the reasons why we had to and how we survived. So this is like a really large painting on paper, and this is silver foil, glitter. This is all this hand, I don't know if I included it. I did, okay. This hand painted mark making. It almost looks like stitching, but it's painted. This is this texture. If you look in there, there's like this sculpture on the floor, like this moon sculpture. So their whole body is like that kind of moon black textured material. And this is just to show you scale. And this is the mark making that you see throughout here. It's kind of this like pulsing, energetic, I imagine like information network or something that's sharing that knowledge, that ancestral knowledge, and that and like that future knowledge, like going back and forth, like sharing information. Sorry, I thought I oriented these properly. This is a newer painting that's on linen. So I was working on paper. I started on linen for a variety of reasons, but I'll still do both. And I really love material. I'm a material girl. And these are trimmed with velvet. So the only way I could kind of like get into working not on paper was if I could like make it cool. And so that was how I made it cool, was putting velvet around the perimeter. I didn't do it, someone else totally did it. But and I paid her. But and so again, like thinking about I didn't say this, but ancestry and kinship and empowerment and power. And so this piece and sort of like this color story. So in the future, if you see this and you see me making these works, I kind of relate, like think about these particular works with this like kind of iron oxide coloring as like my family. Like I'm gonna start to make a body of work that's just talking about like these figures, and that's like talking very much directly about me, whereas like all the work is like me and everyone else. It's like, but it's not a self-portrait, where this is like, oh, I'm thinking about my direct ancestors. So there's like a body of work in the, you know, the space that will be birthed that looks like this. So just know that. Okay, so I had a show last year. It was called Stars Are Born in Darkness, and the work was thinking about Afronauts and how sort of they came to be. And in my story, my mythology, I'm thinking about trafficked and kidnapped ancestors, African ancestors during the Middle Passage, who on on their way to enslavement went overboard, either thrown or jumped to escape enslavement. And in that moment, their hair again like activates, and they become these astronauts underwater and their hair becomes this like almost like scuba helmet sort of thing, where they but again like biological and attached to their body, that allows them to breathe underwater and escape this. So this idea that we and they are surviving because of their blackness, not in spite of it. It's not something that we have to like it's not a target, it's a gift, and it's the reason that we are able to thrive because of that, because of our hair, because of our melanin, because of our features, because of our culture. And so all to say, these figures are not the astronauts. They are the deities who live underwater and are sort of a part of the kind of oceanic landscape. And in my mind, I imagine them as like the largest, I think it's humpback whales or blue whales, like huge whale-sized deities who call them into the water and remind them of their power and their ability to survive. So this is called To Be Held. And this, all of this is this very beautiful, sparkly, textured, almost like moon-like, ocean floor-like material. And then glitter, little coral feet. And this is, I think, the goddess of sand and song. So all of these just ocean deities who are calling the astronauts into the water. And then this is linen on velvet. And then these are little black tourmaline knobs, little protective, charms or crystals. Meet me on the other side. Meet me on the other side. I'm so sorry. Okay, maybe I'll stand up. Meet me on the other side. And this is, again, if you go on my website, you'll be able to see more of the detail, but this is all like coral in this part of the figure's hair. And then these are like these kind of moon, ocean sort of dreadlocks and these little portals in their body. And it's very textured and glittered hands. And more texture and portals and what is it? The way that whales make sound. I'm imagining those are the sounds. Yeah, sonar, like coming out of them to call to the people, and just again to give you an idea of scale. This is a part of that story as well, and this is like the moment that this is like the hull of the ship, and they're going overboard, and this is kind of in mid-transformation, and then these are sort of one version of those deities, like, they're kind of locked together, and then they can break apart and, go into their final form. But this is there's a wave in every cell, so this is just like that sort of activation when they make the decision or when they're thrown overboard, where their hair starts to transform. And these are all, this next bit of work is on paper. This is Wild Delight, and this is post-transformation, and this is like this really like abundant, beautiful refuge where now they've transformed into these astronauts. You see their little afros here, like little moon afros. And then I imagine like their chains turn into these sort of abalone shell or silver like propellers. Like they're mer people, but not so literal. So it's like that's how they get around. And then they're like surrounded by this beautiful, just soothing, just rich space. And again, I really encourage you to go look at my website because you'll see more of the detail. And this is another, I think this is the ocean, beneath the ocean with water full of diamonds. I'm really interested in science, but like and I'm not a scientist, but like in a way that's like, I just love little tidbits of like, I don't know, like that there's like this I mean, this title comes from this idea that there's like another level under the ocean where like there's water and then there's like diamonds in the, I can't even remember the details. That's how much I'm not a scientist. But like, like there's diamonds in the water, or there's water in, I think there's water in the diamonds, but I just thought that was so wild of imagining this, like, what does the water in the diamonds taste like? What does it feel like? I want that water. So yeah, so anyway, that's why I was just imagining this place where the water is full of diamonds, or the diamonds are full of water. And it's, when I'm doing this, I'm really thinking about just like creating like beauty. Like I love beauty. I love being surrounded by beautiful things. I love materials. I want it to feel good. It's totally hard, as Emma knows. Like I stayed up one of the nights for 24 hours. It wasn't great. But I'm also, when I'm not in that sort of space, I am really enjoying making the work. Like I really, really love, I love my work, and I love to make things that feel good. And so it's like, I think it's good to be selfish in some ways. And so it's like a selfish practice where it's really for me and what I like to make. And then I share that with everyone else. But it's not like, I don't want it to be like hard. I want it to like just like flow from me easily and feel really good. And so that's what happens most of the time. This is also a part of that show, just thinking about like, I think it's called Cascade. But a cascade is like a knowledge network. So imagining like this information being passed through my ancestors down to me, and like sharing this sort of, knowledge and power. These are newer works. I'm just giving you, this is like, there's maybe 36 slides, but this isn't all my work, but I'm just giving you like a wide range of older and newer work. And just, yeah, the way that I work. This is from another solo show. And this piece specifically, I'm thinking about like sort of asteroids with information like coming to Earth and sort of going back in time from the future ancestors, and then like sharing the knowledge, like similar to that piece that was like had the mark making. It's kind of referencing that, like this knowledge being encoded in these forms, in these natural forms, and then like passed down to us or passed back to us. And this is another piece. I think it's, I don't remember what these are called. I'm so sorry. I should know the titles of my work, but I don't. And this is also from that show, and these are smaller works, and this was me sort of experimenting with color. I'm really into, I think I said this last night, like cooler temperatures, like blues and greens and purples, but I was like, the way that my brain works, I was so deep in this like sort of blue phase that I was like, oh my God, I need to get out of this. So I like forced myself to like just try something else, just because it was starting to feel like really repetitive. And the same way that those kind of brown sepia and iron colors reference my family, the green is kind of referencing me, more, like absolutely me, not my family, but me specifically. And I think about it in terms of like abundance and power and calling in abundance. And I think this show was titled "A Spell is a Map to What is Meant for You." So thinking about spell work and like how to bring in, how to step into my power and sort of call in abundance, and knowing that like what is meant for me is there, and I just have to follow it, following my intuition. Like intuition is really big for me in my work and in general in my life, and I really trust myself to just know where I'm going in the work creatively, to just like keep following it. And like for years I've been developing this, because I think initially I was really scared. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I think art is so weird and like and crazy, like just making, and it's so wild that this is my life. But I just really like sunk into myself and like trusted myself, and it's gotten me to this place of like making this work that really feels representative like of my heart and my beliefs. So this show and this work was sort of thinking about that too, and honoring that. I think this is Venus. I can't remember the title, but Venus is in the title. I love Venus. But it's referencing me and something about maybe like getting bigger or something. This is called Make Yourself Larger. Oh, don't remember that title, but anyway, Make Yourself Larger. So just about expansion. It was kind of like the beginnings of this show, actually, totally different image-wise, right? But really thinking about that. This was about a year ago, and it was more experimental and smaller works, but just wanting to just really own that like larger than life sort of feeling, and owning that like I belong here and that I like deserve all of everything that I deserve, like all the beauty and the love and the abundance. So this is an older work. I'm showing a lot of works on paper. Again, just thinking about Afro knots and texture. And it was very experimental, but I just wanted to throw, and this is like, I started to like add little beings. And this is like, it feels maybe like kind of darker in content, but really it's thinking about, I mean, this was actually a really heavy piece. I made it in like June 2021, right, I think. And it was like a really difficult time, but it's like referencing like sort of the ancestors in me that I'm like calling upon, or not, you know, ancestors like people who we just in the world that we're losing every day. Another experimental piece was collage on panel and mica. It's really giving you a wide range. Same. And I haven't done a lot of these where I don't kind of manipulate the image, but I was excited about just sort of using these works as like, thinking about them as just parts of like a planet or a portal, instead of repeating them in the same way. Like this is just directly cut from the magazine and then collaged in. How are we on time?
2 more minutes.
Okay, perfect, because I was about to go in these blackboards, but you're not gonna be able to see them, so. Yeah, so let me, I can just like, yeah, these are not, I make, these are like these works that I make. I have like several bodies of work, but these works, a lot of them are referencing moon. Again, it doesn't even matter because you can't see them, but I love abstraction, clearly, but these are really, really abstract in that there's like no part of the body, it's just texture and material, and I like to create things that look like you're on the moon or on another planet or in the ocean, and I've said several times, and it's just like, it feels very like I'm transported. I'm really in love with like looking at them over and over again, and they feel like portals, the pieces themselves. And then again, you won't see them, but you should go look at my website, but these are these black on black works that are sort of engaging or asking the viewer to engage with blackness really intimately. It's black glitter, black high gloss paint on a black gouache, it's velvety gouache, so it's like it's purposely difficult to look at, like to see, you know, you have to get up really close. And they're called Look at Me, and then they're numbered, illustrated spells. And so in my mythology, I imagine that these future ancestors speak in these spells, like when they talk, they are commanding and demanding your attention. You have to see all of their blackness, and you can't look away, and you can't, you know, you can't kind of ignore. You have to engage directly, intimately to understand them and to know them and to see all of the depth and the dynamic blackness and beauty and brilliance. Yeah, I think that's it.
And we have some time for questions, and when you ask your questions, project.
And I'll project.
And when you answer them.
I will project.
And I want to ask the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm really struck by the way you construct sort of all these really detailed narratives around the more figurative work. Like they're doing this, and they're calling out this, and they're saying this.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in the way that, in a different way, using abstraction in the show, you are also using that same narrative.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you can just sort of speak to the imagined stories that you're integrating into both your figurative and abstract.
Like talk about the actual stories?
Yeah, I'm just curious about that process,
Yeah.
and the connection, and that through line between the different bodies of work.
I think, I mean, so it's all the work in my mind is like under the same mythology. So like these larger forms are maybe an even more advanced version or something of those figures. Like maybe we bust out of the human form and now we're these large, huge, and I imagine a massive, you know, organic forms like plants or the clouds or something, you know? So it's all under that umbrella, and I like that because I get to control like what the story is, and I don't have to, it's just like, it's better just to keep it all in the same sort of family. I think I was really excited about the mythology of like the future ancestors because I love storytelling. I love science fiction. I really love television. I'm like a champion for TV. Like I feel like it wasn't cool for a while, and now I'm like, TV rules. I love it. It's great escape. It's so fun. And it also has so many stories. Like I love all kinds of TV, like crap TV, but I also love science fiction and fantasy. And there's just like, I don't know, it's like so exciting to think about like magic and like energy and time travel. And so I was like, oh, I can tell a story too. This is so cool. I want to start doing that. And yeah.
Do you have any impulse to animate any of this?
Oh yeah. I'm
already seeing it.
Yeah.
Just listening to you.
Yeah, and writing about it, and there's like not a novel, but some kind of book and storytelling that will happen.
And motion.
Yeah. I'm not going to do it. Like for a second, I thought I would become like, I don't know, take a class, but I was like, I'm not doing that. But I would love to work with an animator. Yeah, who does that. Yeah, for sure, because I think it lends itself to that. But I think. Yeah, it just got really exciting to like think about storytelling and being like the architect or author of this new world. And I think it makes sense to me. Then I can like kind of work like riff like these illustrated spells. It was just like, oh, okay. Like I made them because I just love the way they look. But then I was like, oh, that fits in this way. And so I kind of like need that sort of structure and like organization for it to make sense, because it's organized, but it's like pretty chaotic too. It's like organized chaos. So it's like really, I need to put it in these sort of, boxes sounds not good, circles. I need to put it in these circles, to be able to understand like how I'm making. But yeah, everything sort of falls into that. And even if it doesn't, like those pieces where it was like just hair and like silver, like I didn't manipulate them or cut them or, transform them. Like I kind of love that I didn't create those with thinking about it, but I could right now make up a story. Like I'm just decide that it's in it and that's it. And because I'm the queen and I get to decide. Yeah. Yeah.
I love your work.
Thank you.
I see it in so many spaces. I mean, I was picturing books when you were talking.
Yeah.
And movies, and also counseling and young people.
Mm-hmm.
And have you been working with anyone in mental health spaces?
Oh no, I haven't actually. That's a great idea. No, I have worked with like youth, like in that I've done like some like visits like schools and with teachers actually. Like I met with like maybe 3 different groups of teachers like at the university level and like high school, I think, to talk about like how to like integrate sort of thinking about race and diversity and politics within art. So, but I haven't, I think that's like the extent of it, but I haven't met with anyone in that space. Actually, just so I know, I did think about becoming an art therapist initially. I don't want to do that at all, but I am interested in like, obviously mental health is so critical and wellness, and I would love to, in that capacity, like be the artist, just artist, not therapist, and then like work with a therapist or something. That would be really rad. Yeah.
Blackness of this. And
Yeah.
help the person understand how they can be.
Yeah.
Is really great.
Yeah, and for me, it really was like, I didn't say that, but like the very first kind of version of this was like during, I think it was 2014 when Michael Brown was murdered, and like that was my response. And being in school, I think I was an undergrad at that point, and sort of trying to deal with those feelings, like really feeling so angry and so heartbroken, and just like trying to transform that and create like these monsters. It was like quite intense, like very almost violent, like the way I sort of imagine these beings, and it's not to say like they're very powerful, but it sort of transformed into like they were just like, it was less reactive, and it was more like, we're out of here. Like we don't even need to, we're just going to do our own thing and like create our own sort of, world, and not sort of as a response to like, like go at someone or something.
talk a little bit, if you have influences in either literature or other artists or people, because there are people that come to mind when I look at the work.
Yeah.
But I'm curious
What that is. Here.
who they are for you. And there was a phrase that a woman I met about a year ago shared with me that she's been developed, and it's for her practice was all about radical imagination. That was the phrase she used. And I had never heard it before, and when I look at this work, it feels like the embodiment of the activation of that phrase to me. It really brings it to life.
Yeah. With artists, I think about other artists. I love art and other artists. I don't, when I'm in my studio, I try to sort of not even think about other artists, and because I'm a little bit self-centered. I just love my work, so I'm just like, I don't want, but but there are artists. Yeah, I mean, and so, but I will say, like, I love, like, Belkis Ayon.
Who is it?
Belkis Ayon, she's a Cuban artist, printmaker, like, incredible, really incredible. She's no longer alive, but she's brilliant.
If you have the Erin Leanne Mitchell catalog, there's a couple of reference images that Erin used too.
So gorgeous. Ellen Gallagher, Wangechi Mutu, and Wangechi Mutu, Kara Walker, Ebony G. Patterson. So like a lot of most contemporary artists, and most of them are Black women, honestly. But I love Kiki Smith. And then with writers, I mean, I love science fiction, and I love Octavia Butler. I'm doing more reading now because I'm in school. But I just started reading Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who is incredible. Like, I hadn't read any of her work, and I just was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Why haven't I read her? And I feel like it's so, it's like really in relationship, my work and her writing, so that was very exciting to me. But I think as far as like when I'm making the work, like, I really love, and I've heard this a couple times, that no one's seen anything like this, and that's what I want. I want to make work that's like totally different and like that's unlike anyone. I mean, there's things I am the sum of all of everyone, of all of these artists and my ancestors and my community. But I am really excited about, I'm just going to put on like a different image. Okay. I am really excited about just like making really like out of this world like work that no one's ever seen.
I kept picturing giant illuminated manuscripts.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I have a project, so that is like really, I love that you, future project.
On a big stand.
Exactly. Wow, you were speaking my language. That makes me so happy. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Look out, watch out for that. So it'll happen. Cool.
Create your own codex.
Maybe we'll just do one more question and then we'll move into
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Hi.
I was curious about how you see yourself as an artist. You mentioned that you see yourself as a painter, but some of the work in this exhibition is so three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And then especially because you're breaking out of that rectangle, it's growing, it's expanding.
Yeah.
So I was curious what your relationship is with sculpture.
Yeah, I don't really see myself as a painter. I just say that. Like, I mean, even when I was doing like more painter stuff, I feel like I was like, I guess I'm a painter, and I just don't. I feel like I'm like a witch or like a maker or like a like a conjurer. Like the way that I'm making the work, it just doesn't feel like it's like painting is like a tool or has been the tool, but it's like not really what it's not art historical. Like, I'm not thinking about art history really at all. I'm thinking about like now and the future and the past in some ways. But like, and with sculpture, this is like my first sort of, the ground piece specifically is my first time doing that, going three-dimensional and like so three-dimensional. And I definitely want to do that more. Sometimes I do like saying I'm a painter just because it's like, doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, I'm a painter. And then you see those and you're like, what are you talking about? And I like kind of like that, like, I'm like painting with glue and glitter, but the one thing that I am thinking about is I am sort of still like thinking about like the sort of formal principles of painting, where I'm like thinking about like value and color in the same way the painter would. And so that actually is totally true, like with anything with the three-dimensional pieces too, and yeah, with everything I'm doing. So that is like accurate. But yeah, I mean, I guess I say mixed media painter because I'm using so many like weird or like not conventional materials, and I don't know if I will continue to do that. I'm not sure like how I'll label myself, but yeah, I mean, I look at other people and they're like mixed media artists, and so I'm like, I guess that makes sense instead of just like dropping painting, because it's not really so true anymore.
There are like not really rules about that.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo, like where I create the rules though, and then I'm like break them in my head. So it's like it's just for me and my process. But yeah. Thank you.